Just think, if profits are rising and interest rates are coming down, the conditions are also conducive for more mergers and acquisitions. There are some takeovers under review right now, Woodside and Santos, that's the big one. But the fall in lithium and nickel stocks will also shake out some companies at cheap prices. Tony Damian is the partner in charge of mergers and acquisitions at the law firm Herbert Freehills. I spoke with him earlier this week.
The interesting thing about 2024 will be we'll see it across a whole range of sectors. So energy and resources, absolutely. Retail, absolutely. But some of the other areas as well. So tech, property, I expect those to be quite busy too.
All right, so technology is one area which is fascinating because you can see in the US right now that the big technology companies, think Microsoft, think Alphabet, think Meta, for example, these companies are now becoming massive institutions with annuity-style income streams. So they've acquired everything around them. Here in Australia, it's still fairly niche and boutique. We've yet to produce really very large, publicly listed ASX technology companies. Are any of those coming in the future?
Interesting to see, and you're absolutely right. We don't have the companies of scale like that. We have some, and some that have been done well and successful, none which have reached those sorts of heights and those sorts of positions of dominance around the world. So hopefully some of them will come through. There's certainly a lot of energy out there in tech land and some of the startups. So what we need to see is some of those companies grow and indeed come from private markets and some of them onto the boards.
Okay, so give me the fundamental motivation for a chief executive or a board of directors to right now saying, we need to go and make an acquisition. What's motivating them to do that? Is it their business growing too slowly, or is it they're trying to fill gaps so before competitors or potential competitors get there?
Both. So you hit both on the head there. So a lot of people are looking at growth and there are uncertainties in the world, but they go, we've got to get on with it. We've got to have a growth story here. A sort of a non-growth story isn't an attractive one to investors. So that's a big part of it. But the other part of it is also filling in gaps, and particularly in the technology space. So a company might go, there's a technology that's emerging here. We can spend 5 to 10 years trying to grow it ourselves and get that know-how in the company, or we can buy something. And quite often it's that latter path that companies will look to.
Okay, so talk to me about law reform here in Australia, and in particular the reforms to corporate law. Are our laws right now well suited to have really aggressive and a really healthy mergers and acquisitions market?
Look, our laws generally are not too bad on that front. There's obviously some merger reform coming this year, and I think that's going to be the interesting one. I think the non-merger side of our corporate laws in terms of M&A is not in a bad place. There are some reforms and some refinements that could be undertaken. We'd love to see the government pick up the mantle on that. So we'll see. The other big area, of course, is merger reform.
Okay, so explain to me that merger reform, because quite clearly when you look at big mergers, the notion of two companies coming together should be relatively straightforward and easy. But from a tax point of view, that would be one of the sticking points. But then legally trying to get those businesses together relatively quickly, that's the other sticking point.
Yeah, and that's been a feature of the market for a while. So you certainly have regulatory reasons that deals take a long time. So clearances, and that's the competition side of things, can sometimes play into that. And when that happens, times can change. And we've seen that in deals that have taken a long time. And indeed, Ross, situations that have taken a long time that haven't turned into deals.
Yes. So that's one of the other problems, isn't it? But I'm sort of still fascinated by the fact that Australia has traditionally been mining companies and banks. They've dominated our markets. They have dominated our big takeovers in many ways. Whether they still, if we look back in 12 months' time, will still have been the ones that will have sought to have made the big acquisitions.
The tech companies in the US, for us, it's probably the mining and resources companies that are quite big and can buy lots of things that they want to. The other type of buy you shouldn't rule out over the next 12 months is the foreign bidder, because there is a lot of inbound interest at the moment, Ross, into Australia. It's not a bad place to invest when you look at a map of the world. So that'll be my other tip for 2024.
And that puts pressure on the Foreign Investment Review Board and the Treasurer to make decisions that are deemed to be in the national interest.
Does indeed.
Indeed. Thank you so much, Tony. Damian, always good to chat to you. Many thanks for your time today.
Thanks, Russ.